Today, you are going to get a front row seat to the ultimate breakdown of how the Springboks beat France in the Rugby World Cup 2023 quarterfinals. I'm going to be joined by Kenneth Todd, who runs an excellent YouTube channel named Rugby Brew. Kenneth does some great work there. I encourage you to go and check it out. Previews, reviews, topical discussions, and it's my absolute pleasure to say welcome, Kenneth.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, Peter. Thanks for inviting me. I feel honored, man. I'm nervous here.
Don't be nervous at all. I think that the nerves certainly cannot compare to what was going on approximately 80 minutes ago. South Africa versus France. What a match. Did it live up to every single expectation?
Peter, it did. Hey, my heart is still racing right now. I'm still sweating. I'm still feeling shaky. I don't know how the players did. It was an absolutely incredible game. Obviously, I didn't want it to be that close. I was hoping the Springboks by 12. But what an epic game. Probably one of the best games I've seen the Springboks involved in, and what they had to go through and still come out on top in a World Cup knockout game. It's just phenomenal.
Strong start from both sides. It was 22-19 to France at halftime. What were you thinking at that stage?
I was thinking how they, at the end of that first half, 6 tries. I thought what's going to happen in the second half, right? I jumped online because I could hardly keep up. It was just back and forth. There was like 2 heavyweight boxers just slugging it out. Whatever, when they scored, we scored. Then we scored, they scored. It's just back and forth, back and forth. Incredible tries. And I was thinking, is the second half going to continue like this, or when is it actually going to slow down and come to maybe a little bit of a kicking duel? But it didn't really come down to the kicking duel. Obviously, the tries just won a piece, I think, in the second half. But so it didn't slow down, but it definitely got tight and that pressure started building.
Something that concerned me was the way that the French mauled from their line out. We saw 2 tries actually coming from that as a result. I think in both cases it was Cyril Baye's tries, and then we saw Mavaka's try, which was obviously not from a line out maul, but similarly stretching the Springbok defence, especially down the French right wing side. I was a bit worried about that at one stage. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's not very often that you see Springbok teams getting dominated physically. And France definitely have some big boys, right? We're not the only big boys in town. And in today's modern rugby, I mean, every team is full of big boys, right? So it was a concern. I haven't seen us go backwards. They won more, which I think ended up in Cyril's first try. That Muavaka, I think I'm saying it correctly, his name, the hooker, incredible player. And so, yeah, I mean, not only were they forwards, but they had such dominant game line success. They were getting over that game line almost at will with their backline moves, very similar to Ireland yesterday against New Zealand. And we were hanging on, and it was in that second period of the second half, but the first period of the second half. So from about 45 minutes to 60 minutes, I was like, I don't know. I think they might blow out here, like France just, go, because we were absorbing so much pressure. And then the bench came on and definitely made a difference for us.
I have very similar sentiments, but we'll come to that a little bit later in this discussion. I just want to stay in the first half for a moment, Kenneth. When the Springboks scored their first 2 tries, in both instances it came from turnover ball. Brilliant stuff from the box, of course, to make it happen. But there was a part of me that was just wondering if those were going to be the only opportunities that we were going to get on the night. I'm wondering what your thoughts were at that stage.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we've been thinking a lot about this Andre Pollard, Moni Lebok, right? Who starts? And I think so many people thought, hey, with the quarterfinal coming up, is maybe Andre starting and then Moni coming on. So when I did the team prediction during the week, and they selected Mani to start. I was thinking, what's going on here? Now, Rusty and Jock, I mean, it's very difficult to predict any of their teams, right? And so, but now I understand why. It was definitely a tactic where Mani was kicking to the corners or high balls, and Peter Steff was always out on the wing. And so they were waiting. They obviously identified something with the French team. And I just thought, hey, well, both of those opportunities, I think the first one was Kurt Lee's try, and then Damien Delinde both came, or the actual one came from Corvus's up and under, right? So, yeah, I definitely thought that was part of the tactic. And then I thought, okay, this makes sense. This is why they started with Mani, and they're going to bring on Andre for the second half, to close out the game. And pretty much that's what happened.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not consider becoming a patron? You can click on my Patreon link, I'll put it on the screen as well as in the description box, and there will be great benefits for members. Let's get back to the interview. There was a very strange moment late in the first half. The French had kicked into our 22 and Damien Willemse collected it. He called the mark, and then something that I've never seen before, instead of taking the kick, he called for a scrum. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I've never seen anything like that. And I thought, guys, what are you doing? You've obviously got a lot of confidence in yourselves, but this South African victory was built on courage and some bold decisions. Also, I don't want to jump ahead, but the thing that makes me that conclusion, one is that scrum from a 22. I've never seen that, but in the second half, when we, instead of taking that 3 points, we were 5 points behind at that stage. We kicked for the corner, lost the line out. Then the next penalty, we actually did a quick tap, but some old school dumming movement going on, and that's when Eben scored his try. So they definitely had identified certain areas, the coaches, and you got to give them respect, and the players, for having the mental fortitude and strength to make those decisions in a high pressure environment, in high pressure situations. And come out and we justified. We won a penalty from that. Moni did get it out, but then the French wing managed to keep it in. So it's just fascinating, and that just all added to my heart rate and blood pressure.
That makes two of us. Now, if what Damien Willemse did was rare, I think equally rare is what we saw when Cheslin Kolbe charged down a conversion attempt from Thomas Ramos. I know that we always see players attempting it, but I can't recall seeing too many of them actually being charged down. Just speaking of Cheslin Kolbe, I thought he had a great game tonight. What did you make of him?
Yeah, he was one of my star players, right, that identified he had a huge game. And yeah, I mean, we end up winning by 1 point, and we know Ramos is deadly with that boot, and that's a 2-point right there. And so it just shows you, it's, also this win was built on, like I spoke about the mental side, but the sheer determination and sheer will to win. And that's a reflection of that, where I mean, we see, wings trying to charge down conversions. And I think that's a reflection of the team. It's just like, we're not going to give up at all on this thing. And every little opportunity and every sniff we have, we're going to go for it. And I think that reflected in it. Cheslin was enormous tonight, even though he's a short guy. I mean, he was incredible, along with Eben, and I thought Jesse Creel was sensational.
I agree with all of that. And speaking of Eben, the head height tackle law again reared its ugly head in this tournament tonight. What did you make of the yellow card?
Yeah, I was glad it wasn't turned into a red, right? We've been fortunate. I mean, the Kiwis had, 2 yellow cards in their game. We had one. I'm glad that we got through the quarterfinals without, 14 men the whole time because of something. It's a tough one. I mean, what is Eben? 6'8". The prop is 6'5". I mean, we know the guys can bend down, and that Eben was almost on one knee. I mean, it's right today in today's age, right? It's almost guaranteed straight yellow and then a review, right? For red. So at least common sense prevailed within the current rules, and I think the referee's also in a tough spot. He's got to go through this whole mitigation process, and so thankfully it wasn't a red, and I guess right now it doesn't matter. We still won, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of the referee, I thought Ben O'Keefe missed quite a few things tonight. As it turns out, some of those, maybe the majority of those, even went in our favour. Thinking of knock-ons, I think there was one incident where Kwagga Smith didn't release the ball. It's little things like that. But just overall, what did you make of Ben O'Keefe's performance?
Yeah, it was very similar to the Ireland game, right, where Ireland dominated at the breakdown, and it became a little bit of just a free for all. And there were situations there, but that were like that. But it's just, I think both teams, like supreme athletes, right, who are just going, hell bent on trying to win a turnover, slow the ball down. Nowadays it's not just the turnover too; it's the, hey, how can I slow down their ruck speed, and how can I, effective point and stuff. So definitely he did miss some stuff. It seems like that's his style, but then also, I don't like to jump on the whole ref bandwagon kind of thing. But the guy is sitting in a stadium, or standing in a stadium with I don't know how many French people. Every decision he made, he was getting booed. I think the crowd were trying to play it up every single time, which is pretty annoying. But so I think he did all right, right? He came out of there unscathed. I think in the modern game, almost any ruck, any breakdown, anytime there's a try now, you're holding your breath to think, hey, are they going to review this? What's going on? So he definitely missed some stuff. And I think France got away with a lot of, holding on balls where we could have turned over, and also just slowing down our ball effectively. But he did okay, I guess.
Do you really know your rugby? Do you always get your predictions right? Why not make some money then? Open an account right now with Tic Tac Bets and get up to 2,000 Rand and 20 spins with your first deposit. The link is appearing on your screen, and I'll also put it in the description area. Please note that this is an affiliate link and I will make a little commission on it. Winners know when to stop. National Responsible Gambling Program. Toll-free helpline 0800 006 008. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Yeah, I didn't have a problem, to be honest, overall with him, and I do think he's probably one of the better referees on the world circuit as well. Let's move on into the second half then. We pretty much emptied our forward side of the bench, the 5-3 split as it was. I think Vincent Koch was the only one who didn't come on within the first 10 or 12 minutes of the second half. And those forwards, I felt, ultimately were better than the forwards that the French brought on. And that is what swung the game our way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I spoke about it earlier, was just the dominance. Like if we look at the stats, with the French carries over the gain line, right? Excuse me for looking down, just reading these stats. I mean, 82 carries over the gain line versus South Africa's 36. They dominated that gain line. They had 153 runs versus 79 of ours. I mean, they beat 42 defenders where we beat 12. And so they got some big boys. I mean, Antonio Muavaka at hooker, their loose forwards, and they were definitely, when they made those changes, we all thought, hey, the bomb squad's been broken up. We're going with a 5-3 split here. What's going on? But it actually turned out to be a bomb squad for real. And I think that, again, that's credit to Jacques and Russie for really building this depth over this 4-year cycle. And it's little moments like this that shows, right? These guys have been in this situation before, and you actually probably got, in some people's books, having Pollard and Faf coming on in the second half is like, hey, those are a lot of people's starting choices, right? So, and I actually thought in this World Cup, I think Oxenshire has had a phenomenal World Cup. And, I was actually calling for him and Trevor to perhaps start. But I don't know, Trevor wasn't there because probably it must be an injury or something. But yeah, definitely. I mean, a long answer, but I did think that they made a big impact. And Dion Fourie being there just with his calm head, really revving the guys up at the end. And I mean, I thought Kwacha was excellent when he came on. Ox was excellent. And Faf was a real nuisance defensively when he came on.
Having said all of that, Kenneth, there was a moment roughly around minute 60. The French were in front by about 6 points, I think it was at that stage. We were inside our own half. Faf de Klerk, we were going backwards. Faf de Klerk made a pass into the backline. It was a wayward pass as it turned out. And it was just in that moment that I wondered if maybe the game was beginning to slip away from us. A very nervous moment, of course, as you can imagine. I'm wondering what your thoughts were.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought exactly the same thing. Like I said earlier, from that like minute 45 to the 60th minute, is they were just coming wave after wave. We couldn't get our hands on the ball, and in fact, I think at the end of the game, right? If I look at the possession stats in that again, I actually don't have them in front here, but it was something like I think 60 something percent in terms of territory and possession. We couldn't get our hands on the ball. And I thought, hey, you can only defend for so long. And I did notice too, is when Pollard were coming, right? So in rugby, one of the natural weak channels from a set piece, a line out or scrum, is that gap between the set piece, line out or scrum, and the number 10. And Andre was actually standing quite far. And that's when we started, Jalibert started making these breaks and steps, and he beat Andre like on 2 different occasions, I think. And I thought, hey, this is not going to work out too well. But it's those substitutions that came on. Again, also that the mental strength and the substitutions. And we started making a couple of silly errors. And I actually did a YouTube video earlier this week on mindset and what makes team choke or collapse. And it was all around Ireland, funny enough, perhaps choking for the quarterfinal. And there's certain signs that you look for in terms of nerves, accumulation of mistakes, especially accumulation from your main players. And Villy had knocked on, and we made a mess of the lineups in their corner. Achia didn't get up, and there was a knock on. I thought, okay, is this the compounding? But then we turned that around very quickly. So that's when I actually started breathing normally, and I could see our bomb squad come on and started making a difference, right? And the players were just immense that came on, incredible.
I'm glad you used that word immense, because that word is actually in my next question. So we did turn things around quite nicely. We weathered that storm as we discussed, and we made our way back into their 22 a little bit later. And in the end, 1 or 2 phases played, and Eben Etzebeth stormed his way, barged his way over the try line to put us in front, as it turned out. How immense was Eben?
Incredible. I mean, I don't know. I have such respect for that guy. I mean, 100 and something caps now. I've lost count. He very rarely lets us down. I thought he's had a quieter World Cup by his standards, which is still, his standards are up here, but just absolutely incredible. How that guy gets up for big games every single week. He's probably one of the Springboks that spends the most minutes on the field, played more minutes than everybody else, over 100 caps, and it just doesn't seem like he's letting off the gas, and just a absolute beast of a man, right? And I just love that whole move, and like I said, or like you had mentioned too, is up to that point they'd been dominating us physically, and we turned the tide pretty quickly. And, that was almost like the sucker punch, right? That was the punch to the gut that the French were like, whoa, okay, what do we do now? We're now 1 point behind. With all this domination, we are now behind by 1 point, and we're going into, what was it, the last 8 minutes or something, last 10 minutes? And that's going to test your mentality in a big way, right? They hit us as hard as they could, and we weren't going away. We were right there, and now ahead. And that might have been the thing that started planting the seed of doubt within the head. We'll never know, but unless somebody says something. But that's definitely a huge turning point, and a courageous decision to take that tap instead of the 3 points that was right there.
Describe the relief you experienced at the final whistle.
Oh my gosh. It was better than my wedding day. I'll say that quietly. My wife's downstairs. She'll beat me afterwards. No, it was incredible, man. I don't know how the players handled it. Seriously, I mean, I was an absolute wreck. It was just a relief. Like, I was looking for the heart pills. Do I have heart pills here? Maybe.
It was so intense, it really was. Guys, if you're enjoying this video, my guest today is Kenneth Todd. He runs a wonderful YouTube channel called Rugby Brew. I'm going to put a link at least, in the description area, and I'm going to put a description on the screen for you as well, and I'd highly encourage you to go and check it out. Previews, reviews, predictions, topical discussions. It's really, really high quality stuff. As I say, I encourage you very much to go and check it out. Kenneth, next up for the Springboks is a semi-final against England. I'm sure you watched them overcome Fiji in their quarterfinal. Is there anything the Boks need to be worried about?
On form, no, right? But it is a knockout game, semi-final. Bit of a backstory there. We beat them, in the last in the 2019 final. Look, we should beat them, and beat them pretty easily, right? You would imagine. But the pressure goes up another level. I mean, the one thing that if you notice, like Wales and Argentinian quarterfinal, great game of rugby. Really enjoyed that. The Ireland-New Zealand game was a step up in intensity, huge. It's like we playing two different sports here almost, right? The England-Fiji game, exciting, Fiji coming back, and heartbreaking for them. And then today's game, again, huge step up in intensity, physicality, skill set. So, but semi-finals, anything's possible, right? And bear in mind is England's very similar to us. There's a lot of players in this current team that were in the 2019 World Cup final. And so, you look at guys like Courtney Laws, Moro Toji, Ellis Genge, even Jamie George, Curry, Vunipola, and Tuilagi, and Marcus Smith. These are good players. I mean, Owen Farrell, I'm not a fan of Owen Farrell at all. But, the guy's got a lot of experience. He can play. So, yeah, it's like my brother always said to me, right, is as I was getting older and I would try to challenge him, he'd always give me a good clap, and he'd say, don't get too clever, because when you think you're clever, you're going to come short. So I don't want to be too clever, right? But I think we should win that, and I think we should do okay with that, just because I trust the players and I really trust this coaching setup. And hopefully it will be a New Zealand versus South Africa, the ultimate rugby rivalry, challenging for the cup final.
And that's where we're going to finish off, Kenneth. How exciting is the prospect of a Springboks All Blacks final? We haven't had one since 1995.
Yeah, that would just be incredible. It'd be absolutely incredible. And right now in this World Cup cycle, we've got both of us, right? We've got a 50% winning ratio against each other. And, they did us in Mount Smart this year by a good one. And then we betted them in Twickenham, that winning margin. We gave them a good smack. And even last year with Nelspruit and Ellis Park. So, and then the games before that were all 1 or 2 point games. So it's that's just if that happens, I won't be able to sleep for a week. Leading up to that game, I'll be so excited.
I think I can relate to every word you just spoke there. Kenneth, let me say it was lovely having you on Front Row Rugby today. An absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts. And I hope that we can have you on again in the future.
Hey, Peter, it's an absolute pleasure. And thanks so much, man. I've really enjoyed following your channel, watching your channel with all those interviews. And I hope everybody that's watching shares your YouTube with all their friends and stuff. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed this, man.
Thank you so much for watching. This video is part of a series of Rugby World Cup content I've put together. You can go and watch some of those videos. They're appearing on your screen right now. See you next time.